She locked me out during my first festival. Said I wasn't family. I returned wearing her wedding jewelry, gifted by her husband. She stared. I said, now I'm more family than you ever were. She locked the gate while I stood outside in full traditional dress, holding a basket of sweets. Inside the music was loud, the laughter louder, but none of it was meant for me. I wasn't just excluded, I was erased. My husband's sister-in-law made sure of that. She told everyone I wasn't family and they believed her. I arrived early hoping to help with the decorations. It was my first festival with my husband's family and I wanted to be useful. I had spent the morning preparing, pressed my clothes, braided my hair, even brought homemade almond sweets wrapped in gold foil. I'd imagined warm hugs, shared stories, and maybe a few compliments. What I got instead was silence. She saw me from the veranda. Her eyes scanned me like I was a stranger. Then she turned her back and walked inside. I stood there, unsure whether to follow. A few cousins passed by, barely acknowledging me. I smiled anyway, trying to stay hopeful. I walked to the side gate, thinking maybe I'd misunderstood. Maybe she hadn't seen me properly. But the gate was locked. I tried the back entrance. Also locked. I knocked gently, then louder. No one answered. I could hear the clinking of glasses, the sound of laughter, and someone singing a folk song. I waited. And waited. My husband was away on a work trip. He told me to go, said it would be good to bond with the family. I had trusted him. But standing outside that house, I realized I was alone. And someone had made sure I felt it. I placed the basket on the porch and stepped back. I didn't cry. Not yet. I walked away slowly, my footsteps echoing against the pavement. A neighbor saw me and asked, "Weren't you invited?" I nodded, unsure what to say. I didn't want to explain. I didn't want to make it worse. Later that evening, I received a call from a cousin. She apologized quietly and said she'd overheard my sister-in-law telling others that I wasn't cultured enough for their traditions. That I didn't fit in. That I was too plain. She told them I was only there to show off, to make a scene. I was stunned. I'd barely spoken to her before. We'd met twice. Once at the wedding, once at a dinner. She'd smiled then. Or at least pretended to. I replayed those moments in my head, wondering what I'd missed. Was it my clothes? My accent? My silence? I didn't confront her. I didn't call my husband. I didn't post anything online. But something inside me shifted. A quiet resolve. I wouldn't let her define me. Not like this. The next morning I saw my father-in-law in the garden. He was watering the roses. He glanced at me, then at the empty basket I'd left behind. He didn't say a word. Just nodded. A slow, deliberate nod. Then he turned and walked back inside. That afternoon I found a small velvet box on my doorstep. No note. No explanation. Just the box. I didn't open it right away. I stared at it for hours. I placed it on the shelf, then moved it to the drawer. I wasn't ready. I didn't know what it meant. Was it a peace offering? A mistake? A message? That night I cried. Not because I was excluded. But because I realized I had allowed someone else to decide where I belonged. I had stood outside, waiting for permission. Waiting for approval. And that hurt more than her words. I remembered a moment from my childhood. My mother had once told me, if someone shuts the door on you, build your own entrance. I hadn't understood it then. But now it echoed in my mind. The festival ended. The lights came down. The garlands wilted. But something inside me had just begun. I wasn't going to wait anymore. I wasn't going to knock. Next time I'd walk in, and they'd have no choice but to see me. A few days later I bumped into her at the market. She was with two other women laughing. She saw me and paused. Her smile was thin, almost mocking. "Did you enjoy the festival?" she asked. "I did," I replied. From where I stood it looked enlightening. She blinked. One of the women raised an eyebrow. I didn't stay long. I bought my vegetables and left. But I knew she'd heard the shift in my tone. That evening I finally opened the velvet box. Inside was a necklace. Gold, delicate with tiny emeralds. I recognized it instantly. It was the same one she wore at her wedding. The one gifted by her husband. The one she flaunted at every family event. I held it in my palm, unsure what to feel. Gratitude? Confusion? Power? I didn't wear it. Not yet. But I kept it close. It wasn't just jewelry. It was a symbol. of something unspoken, of something earned. The days passed. I didn't mention the box to anyone. I didn't ask questions. But I noticed small changes. My father-in-law started inviting me to tea. My mother-in-law asked for my help with recipes. A cousin dropped by with fabric samples asking for my opinion. She noticed too. Her smiles became tighter. Her greetings shorter. She no longer dominated the room. He watched me, carefully, quietly. I didn't seek revenge. I didn't plan anything. But I knew deep down that the next festival wouldn't be the same. And I wouldn't be standing outside. The necklace shimmered under the soft light of my bedroom lamp. I held it in my palm, letting the emeralds catch the glow. It was heavier than I expected, not just in weight but in meaning. I had seen her wear it countless times, always with pride, always with a smug tilt of her chin. And now it was mine. I didn't rush to wear it. I didn't even try it on. I placed it gently back into the velvet box and slid it into my drawer. For days I avoided looking at it. Not because I didn't want it, but because I needed to understand why it had come to me. Jewelry like that wasn't passed around casually. It was a symbol. A statement. One afternoon I found my father-in-law trimming the jasmine vines near the back wall. I walked over, unsure how to begin. He didn't look up. Just kept snipping, slow and steady. I received the necklace, I said quietly. He paused, then nodded once. I know. I hesitated. It belonged to her. He finally looked at me. His eyes were calm, unreadable. It belonged to the family. And now it belongs to someone who understands what that means. I didn't know how to respond. I waited. She wears things to be seen, he continued. You wear things that speak. I swallowed hard. Why me? He smiled faintly. As you carry dignity. She carries noise. That was all he said. He turned back to the vines, snipping away. I stood there for a moment, letting his words settle. I didn't press further. I didn't need to. The next festival was weeks away. I didn't mark the date on my calendar. I didn't plan a dramatic entrance. I simply prepared. Quietly. Thoughtfully. I chose a soft beige outfit with delicate embroidery. No sequins. No glitter. Just grace. I polished the necklace, cleaned the matching earrings and laid them out on my dresser the night before. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. I didn't ask for permission. The morning of the festival I dressed slowly. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. I pinned my hair back, applied a light touch of lipstick and fastened the necklace around my neck. It sat perfectly, like it had always belonged there. As I walked toward the hall I noticed the usual buzz. Cars parked outside. Children running around. Women adjusting their dupattas and fixing their bangles. I stepped in through the main entrance. No hesitation. No second thoughts. The moment I entered, the room shifted. Heads turned. Conversations paused. A few cousins blinked, unsure whether to greet me or stare. I smiled gently and walked toward the center of the room. I wasn't looking for her, but I knew she'd find me. And she did. She was standing near the dessert table laughing with two aunts. Her eyes caught mine, then dropped to my neck. Her laughter stopped mid-sentence. Her face stiffened. She walked toward me, slow and deliberate. Her heels clicked against the marble floor. Where did you get that? She asked, voice tight. I tilted my head slightly. It was gifted to me. Her eyes narrowed. By whom? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The silence was louder than any explanation. She looked around as if expecting someone to intervene. But no one did. The aunts had turned away. The cousins were pretending to be busy. Even her husband was nowhere to be seen. He tried to laugh. A short, brittle sound. Well, it looks different on you. I leaned in just enough for her to hear. Now I'm more family than you ever were. Her mouth opened but no words came out. She blinked. Once. Twice. Then turned and walked away. I didn't follow. I didn't gloat. I simply stood there letting the moment settle. Later, as I helped serve tea, a few relatives came over. They complimented my outfit. Asked about the necklace. One aunt said, "It suits you. You wear it with grace." I smiled. "Thank you." Another cousin whispered, "She's been quiet all day." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. As the afternoon wore on, I noticed her sitting alone near the window. Her usual circle had drifted away. She wasn't laughing. She wasn't commanding attention. He was just there. At one point she stood up and walked toward the exit. No goodbyes. No hugs. Just a quiet departure. I stayed until the end. Helped clean up. Shared recipes. Laughed with the children. When I finally left, my heart felt light. Not because I'd won anything, but because I'd reclaimed something that had been denied. That evening I placed the necklace back in its box. Not out of fear but out of respect. It wasn't just jewelry. It was a reminder. Of who I was. Of what I'd endured. Of what I'd become. The next morning my father-in-law joined me for breakfast. He didn't mention the festival. He didn't mention her. He simply said, "Tea?" I nodded. "Yes, please." We sat in silence, sipping slowly. The jasmine vines swayed gently outside. And for the first time I felt like I belonged, not because someone said I did but because I knew I did. The jasmine vines swayed gently outside as I sipped my tea beside my father-in-law. Neither of us spoke much that morning, but the silence felt different, like something had settled. Not just between us but in the house. The tension that used to cling to the walls had loosened. I could feel it in the way the help greeted me, in the way the cook asked if I preferred cardamom or ginger in my tea. Small things, but they mattered. Later that week I received a message from one of the aunts. She wanted my help choosing fabrics for the upcoming wedding in the family. "You have an eye for elegance," she wrote. I stared at the message for a long time. It wasn't just about fabric. It was about trust. About inclusion. About being seen. I walked into the living room where the women were gathered, discussing colors and cuts. For the first time no one hesitated when I entered. One even shifted to make space beside her. I sat down, offered suggestions, and they listened. Not politely, genuinely. They asked questions, nodded, even took notes. She sat across the room, silent. Her usual dominance had dimmed. She didn't interrupt. She didn't correct. He just watched. At one point someone asked about jewelry pairings. I mentioned the emerald set. A few heads turned toward her, then back to me. I didn't elaborate. I didn't need to. The message was already clear. But silence doesn't always mean surrender. A few days later, I overheard her speaking to a cousin in the hallway. Her voice was low but sharp. She took it. That necklace was mine. She manipulated him. I didn't confront her. I didn't raise my voice. Said I waited. That evening during dinner my father-in-law cleared his throat and addressed the room. "I want to clarify something," he said. "The emerald set was mine to give. I chose to pass it on. Not because of obligation but because of merit." No one responded. She didn't look up. Her husband shifted uncomfortably in his seat. I kept my eyes on my plate, but inside I felt something release. A knot I hadn't realized was still there. She never mentioned the necklace again. But her resentment lingered. It showed in the way she avoided eye contact, in the way she left rooms when I entered. I didn't chase her approval. I didn't seek reconciliation. I simply continued living. One evening as I was arranging flowers in the front hall, her husband approached me. He looked tired, like someone carrying a weight he didn't know how to put down. "I owe you an apology," he said quietly. I paused, unsure how to respond. "Not for her," he continued. "She makes her own choices. But for my silence. I should have spoken up. I should have defended you." I nodded slowly. "It's not easy to go against family." He sighed. "It's not. But it's harder to watch injustice and say nothing." I didn't forgive him then. Not fully. But I appreciated his honesty. It was the first time someone from her side acknowledged the imbalance. That meant something. When my husband returned from his trip, he noticed the shift immediately. The way people greeted me. The way I moved through the house. The way she avoided me. We sat on the balcony that night, the air cool and quiet. "I missed a lot," he said. I told him everything. Not dramatically. Just truthfully. He listened without interrupting, his jaw tightening at certain parts. "She locked you out?" he asked, voice low. I nodded. "And the necklace?" "Your father gave it to me." He leaned back, exhaling slowly. "You didn't just stand up for yourself. You changed how they see you. That meant more than any apology. More than any gesture." He saw me. Not as someone who endured, but as someone who transformed. In the weeks that followed, I found myself included in more than just conversations. I was asked to lead the planning for the upcoming family event. I was given keys to the storage room. I was trusted with decisions. Not because I demanded it, but because I'd earned it. She remained distant. Occasionally civil, mostly cold. But her power had faded. Not because I took it, but because she misused it. One afternoon I found her in the garden, staring at the roses. I walked past her, not expecting anything. But she spoke. "You think you've won?" I stopped. It wasn't a competition. She turned to face me. "You wear that necklace like a crown." I met her gaze. "It's not a crown. It's a reminder." "Of what?" "That silence can speak louder than noise." She didn't reply. She turned back to the roses and I walked away. I didn't seek revenge. I didn't want her to suffer. I wanted respect. And I earned it, not through shouting, not through confrontation, but through grace, timing, and truth. That necklace wasn't just gold and emeralds. It was a symbol of who I became, of the strength I discovered, of the dignity I chose, and of who she never learned to be.